You're Ultra Maga, and you're Ultra Maga. I'll Ultra Maga you so hard. Is Ultra Maga an insult that's going to shift the needle in Joe Biden's favour? Or is it just Basket of Deplorables Part 2? Hey ho there, you 5.6 million awakening wonders, learning to discern, adjudicate and judge truth from fiction, deception from integrity, noticing now that the political space is filled with rhymes and lies that don't make no sense to anybody but the stupid. If you don't subscribe yet, subscribe right now, and remember, we want your comments and your likes, and turn on that notification bell. At the end, I'm going to tell you how to sign up my mailing list and some of the great events I do here. And remember, if anyone in the comments below goes, "Hey, text me here, I'm Russell," that's not me. I don't want you to text me. We communicate thusly. Now, let's see how the wonderful world of propaganda is trying to spin your mind right now. Joe Biden had a team of people come up with the phrase Ultra Maga for 6 months. Weren't you under the impression that we're in a stage of hyperinflation, food shortages, precipice of a global war, emerging from this pandemic and dealing with the peculiar set of regulations, deceptions, confusion that emerged out of that? Do you think a good use of the president's time is coming up with catchphrases? What is it, Saturday Night Live?
I call it the Ultra Maga plan. And the Ultra Maga Republicans, the Maga Republicans are under my predecessor, the great Maga King. The other path is the Ultra Maga plan. This MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history.
Now, obviously what this represents is an attempt to defibrillate dying tensions. As people in America start thinking, hold on a minute, this ain't working very well. That withdrawal from Afghanistan was a disaster. We don't necessarily want a war against Russia. Hyperinflation, food costs more money now, gas is costing loads of money, things are falling apart. What should we do? I know what, let's get people talking about complex hot button social issues, about bodily freedom. Let's get guns to the front of the agenda again. Let's get the Ultra Maga conversation going. I'm not suggesting any of those things aren't real, by the way. I don't, in spite of what you may read, I don't believe in conspiracy theories. I believe in conspiracy facts like you. Let me know in the comments below if that's how you see this kind of thing. I reckon this is an attempt to re-engage the fissures and tension that can exist between people at a time that probably collectively people on the left and right are starting to think, oh no, this administration's shit. Oh no, MAGAs! You don't want no more MAGAs, do ya? What about them MAGAs? Ultra MAGAs, King MAGAs, magazines, MAGA queens. I'm wearing a pair of new MAGA jeans. If I say MAGA enough, will you not notice that? MAGA farts! MAGA farts! Let's have a look at the story with more depth. Looking to avert a midterm disaster that would all but end his domestic agenda, President Joe Biden has landed on a message aimed squarely at the political movement of his predecessor. Trump ain't president no more. Trump ain't making no decisions anymore. You can't blame Trump anymore. You can't every night go, Trump done this, Trump done that. What people are starting to realize is that Trump was rating steroids and that Trump was a useful gargoyle to focus the attention of emergent progressive politics, because he's this ultra macho child drawing of a president, we've called him before. And now that that threat doesn't exist, it has to be revitalized. Instead of, you know what else you could do? Focus on real politics. Focus on making ordinary people's lives better. Instead of saying, MAGA, MAGA, ooh, MAGA, MAGA. Start thinking, how can we improve the conditions, taxes, financial situations, social conditions, tensions between different communities? What can we do? We're in power now. No excuses anymore. We can make the changes we need to make. Well, it's a bit more complicated than that, Russell. There's the Supreme Court, there's Congress, and then there's the Senate. Oh, so you're saying that there needs to be significant institutional change? Agreed. Radical, necessary, immediate. Instead of 6 months think tank wanking out new phrases about nothing, Ultra Maga this, MAGA King that. Get on with your job. Do your job. But he's not mentioning Donald Trump. Instead, the White House works aggressively to paint Republicans and their policies as an ultra-MAGA agenda in a push to overcome the president's brutal approval ratings and voters' frustration with high inflation to help Democrats maintain control of Congress. You can use this as a litmus test. If you hear people saying ultra-MAGA, what you know is these people don't think for themselves. We learn as much from you as you may learn from us. But we shouldn't just take on and imbibe other people's views and opinions. We should curate information as best we can from a variety of sources. When Matt Taibbi came on my podcast, Under the Skin, he said that's exactly what he did. If he wants to understand something, he talks to 15 reliable people. Then he presents his own conclusions. We should all do our own version. I mean, there ain't enough hours in the day if you're grafting away on 0-hour contracts. I get that. But what I mean to say is, if you hear people using phrases that have been fed to them by the media, you know what's happened. They're occupied. They've been parasited. They ain't awake. A lot of people are not awake. They know not what they do. Or as it says in The Sixth Sense, they're already dead. They've killed us already. We're all ready to, this must be ultra MAGA. Oh, there's a basket of deplorables, I believe. Don't get sucked into it. None of it is real. Go inside yourself. Understand your own emotions. Don't get distracted by this crap. Rather than calling out Trump by name, Biden targets the Make America Great Again takeover of the Republican Party as the product of an increasingly extreme party. Now, let me tell you, I know some of you lot, you like the Republicans because of social and cultural issues that resonate with you. I'm sure there's people that don't. Me, I don't think that either of those two political parties are going to meaningfully change your life. What I mean by that is you wake up in the morning. You are you. You go about your life. You have your relationships. You need a politics that's going to impact you in your heart. Are you a teacher? Are you a police person? Are you a fire person? Where do you work? What do you do? Are you an independent business owner? Let me tell you, whatever you do, your culture is coming for you. It's hollowing out your businesses. It's hollowing out your communities. It's giving more and more power to unelected globalist bodies. That's what's going on. I'm watching it happen in real time. And the only way that can take place without opposition, because you'd be disgusted if you saw it, is by distracting you with this ultra MAGA crap. Biden introduced the ultra MAGA label last week. I got a new project dropping. Ultra MAGA. This is what I'm going to do it. Ultra MAGA. See, that's my sign. Ultra MAGA. Making it a staple of his public remarks since. They're having conversations, aren't they? Saying, listen, let's start calling things ultra MAGA and say it in all your speeches. Lean confidently against the podium and say ultra MAGA. It'd make you look so statesmanly. Behind the scenes, the term ultra MAGA was the subject of months of polling from Democratic allies, focus groups and meetings among White House officials to fine-tune a strategy to define the opposition. The conclusion, voters respond more negatively to MAGA than Trump, who people love. What a terrible thing if you're the Democrats to start understanding. Wait a minute, people like Trump because they don't like us, because they're sick of empty, hollow promises and meaningless gestures. Could we change? Could we become a different party that helps people, that creates social liberty, that empowers people to run their own lives? We could do that, or we could start saying MAGA instead. Yeah, sorry about that other thing, sorry about that. The great MAGA king, Biden said in a speech Wednesday in Chicago, referring to the former president. The other thing is, they're not very good at coming up with stuff, because that sounds cool. Democrats are trying to define a clear choice in the midterm elections to avoid a referendum on a struggling presidency. Sort your shit out then. Sort out the struggles of millions, hundreds of millions of ordinary Americans who are suffering right now because of ineptitude, political ineptitude, that you said you would end. Because 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Trump. Right, no Trump. MAGA. They want voters to see ultra MAGA as their alternative. Omitting Trump's name is meant to reinforce a movement the Democratic strategist said is bigger than Trump, with whom Biden has largely sought to avoid direct conflict since taking office. I wonder why. The strategy still risks making the midterms about Trump, not the movement he spawned or Democrats' vision for the country. Biden has ramped up his criticism of Trump's political movement as several Republican primaries take place this month. Democrats face a possible outcome in November that could leave Biden with a Senate and House controlled by Trump loyalists, virtually ending any chance of the White House passing major legislation for the rest of Biden's term. Not that they're going to do anything anyway, because how is the party funded? How is the party lobbied? How do the Congress people make their real money? What jobs are they going to be doing when they aren't in Congress or the Senate anymore? It's all sewn up already. Oh no, they've won the Senate and the House. Now we won't be able to do fuck all in the way we was gonna. Biden first hinted at the term last month during a swing to Western states. This ain't your father's Republican Party, he said at a fundraiser in Seattle. This is a MAGA party now. These guys are a different breed of cat. Like me, I'm the hippest cat in town. I'm going around, I'm doing my thing. Hey MAGA, I bagger a new victory. The research project that led to the term Ultra MAGA was led by Biden advisor Anita Dunn and by the liberal group, the Center for American Progress Action Fund. This is people's jobs. So when you're struggling economically, when you're worrying about the price of fuel or where your next bit of baby powder's coming from, know that there's people paid for by you. by your taxes to come up with catchphrases for your president so that they can distract you from the fact they're not doing anything with your money. Outgoing White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on Tuesday said Ultra MAGA is Biden's phrase and that he added ultra to give it a little extra pop. MAGA's pretty good for some of you cockheads like old corn pop though. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a boost. How about Ultra MAGA? Corn pop! According to the Post, the polling and focus group researched by Hart Research and the Global Strategy Group found that MAGA was already viewed negatively by voters. Yeah, people who don't like it anyway. And what you need to work on is finding unity, connection, not calcifying and cementing existing divisions. We know there's divisions. We know some people are focused on progressivism with very valuable arguments. And some people are focused on traditionalism with very valuable arguments. There are perfectly reasonable people on both sides of the argument. So what are we going to do to create a better America and a better world? I know I'm not even American and I don't live there, but guess what? I live in an Anglophonic country and our culture is determined by your dominator culture. That's the reality of it. I'm not complaining about it. We had our turn, the red jackets and all that stuff didn't work out. The research showed that the description tapped into sentiments that the Republican Party had become more extreme, the Washington Post reported. And yet the attack line may be something MAGA Republicans want to embrace, just as they did when Hillary Clinton called them a basket of deplorables in 2016. When will you ever learn? Republicans accused Biden of abandoning his campaign pledge to unite Americans and said Democrats will be judged by their president's low approval ratings and high inflation. I'm not an economist, so I can't claim to understand the true complexity of hyperinflation, but I do know that American corporations and global corporations affiliated with the United States are making record profits. So while you may be suffering, they are profiting. And while Joe Biden chooses to call it Putin's price hikes or blame Trump and blame Ultra MAGA as if it's some new groovy catchphrase, it's difficult to avoid ineptitude at the heart of government. Some Republicans have doubled down on their MAGA credentials since Biden's wave of attacks. I am Ultra MAGA, Republican Elise Stefanik said, and I'm proud of it. I would never vote Republican. I would never vote Democrat. I'll say this though, coming up with these crazy stupid phrases is dumb and it plays into rhetorical territory that the Democrats don't traditionally do well in. They've created for themselves another let's go Brandon. Instead of coming up with catchphrases and keeping this veneer of empty rhetoric as the defining space in cultural conversation, how about accepting, oh, we're not very good at that. Do you know what we should do instead? Focus on making people's lives better. Focus on improving the conditions for ordinary Americans. Focusing on healing the divisions that have been caused. That was what was pledged at the augmentation of Biden's presidency. But all of those things, you know what? They're hard to do. People can't do them. So what they do instead is distract you with phrases that can go on a hat. And frankly, the Republicans are better at doing that. Political observers also have doubts. Matt Grossman, director of the Institute for Public Policy and Social Research at Michigan State University, said Biden's ultra MAGA push mirrors Democratic efforts to define Republicans as extreme. He said Democrats struggled to execute that argument in past elections and probably will again. He said taking on Trump's MAGA movement still faces the fundamental problem that Trump isn't on the ballot. So there you are. Politics, as we've said for some time, is about rhetoric, presentation, performance and appearance, when in fact what politics ought to be about is the representation of ordinary Americans, not using various distraction techniques to prevent us from recognizing that what government does in your country, in my country, in most countries that you would call developed or Western or whatever, choose your word, is distract you from the fact that corporate power is what dominates how ordinary life is lived. That public facilities are being hollowed out so that global corporations, I'm not talking about independent business, I'm not even talking about small, normal or even medium-sized businesses. Global behemoths can suck the power out of your community, whatever your community is, however you define it, geographically or by some other means. The power is sucked out of it and centralized. And as long as they can use some badge to legitimize what they're doing, they'll carry on doing it. And as long as they got a stooge in the White House, nobody is going to stop them. Are you going to stop them? Are you going to organize? Are you going to look for alternatives? Let me know in the comments below what you think you should do. Give this video a thumbs up. If you see any comments below that are apparently from me, text me on this number. That is not me. I will never do that. I will be responding to some of your comments and I always read them. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either of these two. And if you want to come to a one-day event with the great Vandana Shiva and Wim Hof, July the 10th in the UK, you've got to sign up to my mailing list. That's how I communicate stuff that I daren't say on platforms such as this. More importantly than any of that though, please stay free.